VeChain just did something in 5 hours that, I thought would actually take days. I almost actually missed it, and, it could actually change everything for VET. So picture this, right? It's August 18th. I'm winding down on a Friday, and suddenly my phone buzzes, right? With this alert, VeChain Hayabusa vote hits quorum. Now, in just 5 hours. So I had to think to myself, usually blockchain votes are like watching paint dry. They're slow, they're boring, maybe nobody even votes, right? But this was actually like a bit of a flash mob at a crypto conference. And I had so many questions popping into my head about this. What on earth is, Hayabusa? Why were people so eager to click on the yes, that quorum got smashed in just hours, right? And the big one, is this going to send VET to the moon or what? Now, right, I'm not gonna lie, that thought definitely did cross my mind, right? So I did what any curious investor would do. I grabbed a coffee and I started digging into what the heck was actually going on. And you won't believe what I discovered. Right, first, let me just decode this fancy term Hayabusa. Now, if you're thinking of the Japanese falcon or that kind of super bike, you're not wrong. It actually means kind of, peregrine falcon in Japanese, but in VeChain's world, Hayabusa is actually the code name for a huge upgrade that I've been planning, or at least they've been planning and I've been watching, I should say. Now, in plain English, VeChain is changing the way that it runs its network and rewards its users, right? Up until now, VeChain has been using something called proof of authority. Now, that meant that only a small, hand-picked group of nodes had the power to actually validate transactions and secure the network. It's a little bit like a VIP club where only bouncers with special invites actually get in. And it's great for efficiency, but not exactly the most democratic setup, right? And if there's just one thing that crypto people love, it's the decentralization, spreading the power to the people, right? So Hayabusa is all about flipping that system to a kind of delegated proof of stake model then. Now, don't let that kind of jargon scare you off here, right? Just imagine VeChain going from that kind of exclusive VIP club to a more kind of community-run event, right? Now, in DPoS, I should say, the Delegated Proof of Stake, VET holders can either become validators themselves if they have enough, or they can delegate their votes to someone who actually does, right? Now, suddenly the circles of decision makers goes from a few VIPs to potentially hundreds of active participants, and it's kind of like VeChain's opened the door and said, hey, VET fam, come on in and help run the show. Right now, to be fair, it's not a complete kind of free-for-all here, right? You do need a pretty hefty bag of VET tokens to run a validator node, right? We are talking about 25 million tokens, VET tokens minimum, right? Which is, at today's price, around $500,000. So yeah, I double-checked the math on the Kraken Pro app. That is the exchange that I use, by the way, for this kind of stuff. There's a link in the description down below. It's an affiliate link that supports the channel here. So if you do decide to sign up on it and trade on that link, you should know that it's an affiliate link that supports the channel. But anyway, not many people have that kind of stash just lying around to throw into VeChain, right? But here's where the kind of delegators really do come in, right? Even if you can't be a validator kingpin, you can still vote by delegating your VET to an X node or an economic node and get a piece of the rewards for doing so. So think of it like this, voting for your representative, in a kind of crypto congress, except these reps can actually get you staking rewards. And oh boy, the rewards, VeChain basically said, we need to reward the people who actually help secure the network, not just everyone chilling on the sidelines. And now, validators, they earn a 2x reward. X node delegators get a 1.5x reward, and regular economic node delegators get a 1x reward. In other words, if you're stepping up to the chain, in terms of running, you get the juicy bonus, right? if you're just casually supporting, you still get something, but not the whole cake. It's a clever way of saying thank you for doing the heavy lifting while avoiding spraying out too much tokens, to everyone for no reason at all. So for a bit of a fun analogy here, it's kind of like an airplane rewards program for VeChain, right? Validators, are those top tier frequent flyers getting double miles and free lounge champagne. X-node delegators are the kind of mid-tier members with priority boarding and 1.5x miles, right? And then they've got the regular delegators, are the economic class, right? You're on the plane, you get your basic miles, but no extra kind of frills. Everyone's still a part of the journey, but the people contributing more get pampered just that little bit more. It's kind of a fairer system than before, and it makes people actually want to be a part of securing the network. Now, the part that really kind of caught my attention here is V4. Now, V4 is the gas token of VeChain. Now, if you've ever held VET, then you know that feeling of getting just a little sprinkle of V4 in your wallet every single day. It's like interest. It used to be just like that, just for holding VET, automatically generating V4, no action needed, passive income for doing absolutely nothing. Well, free money comes with a cost, specifically inflation. Now, VeChain's been basically printing V4 and handing it out to everyone, which is nice, but it also increases the supply constantly. So over time, that became a little bit of a problem. Imagine a game where everyone gets a participation trophy every single day. Eventually, those trophies pile up and they lose their meaning, right? Well, the Hayabusa upgrade is putting an end to that passive income party from now on, right? And only people who actively stake their VET or delegate it will actually earn V4 rewards. No more free rides for the freeloaders out there. So if you want the goodies, you've got to contribute. And guess what? That means that a lot less V4 is now going to be flooding the market. By only paying V4 to actually active participants, VeChain is turning off the endless facet that was diluting the value of V4. Now, the idea is to cut down the inflation and actually make VET's tokenomics way more sustainable. In fact, they've crunched the numbers across all of these big upgrades in their VeChain Renaissance plan and estimated that they'll slash V4 inflation by up to 72%. That's a huge shift towards making VET deflationary, or at least a lot less inflationary. And you're not just relying then on reducing rewards. VeChain actually has a mechanism where a portion of V4 is permanently burned away with every single transaction. So Hayabusa is like the next puzzle piece, creating a 1-2 punch then. Less V4 being minted and continuous V4 burning to boost. Fewer tokens coming into circulation plus tokens being burned out of circulation is equaling a recipe for potential value growth, if demand holds steady, that is. Now, while it all kind of plays out, that sounds smooth, right? There's the billion-dollar question in the crypto space though, isn't it, right? Will it go that smooth? But is this path that they've set, this is the path that they've set, and the community is clearly on board with it, right? What really kind of makes this whole thing feel rather real is that they already have a timeline. Now, they're not saying soon, right? They actually think that this, like some projects do, the Hayabusa testnet goes live in early September, so it's just a few weeks away. And if it goes well, they'll probably aim to integrate it into the mainnet by the end of December 2025. So you can mark your calendars, because if they stick to it anyway, they schedule 2025 could end with a very different VeChain than what we started with. So I imagine that the VeChain kind of diehards, will, at least were celebrating when they heard that it hit this 5-hour insane kind of ride. Did everyone just set an alarms to vote? It kind of shows people actually cared enough to participate en masse, instead of just, being kind of apathetic, right? At least in crypto community, enthusiasm is half the battle, right? You know the saying, right? Crypto is 90% community, 10% technology. So I just made that up, of course, but it kind of feels true sometimes. Now, the fact is, right, I hopped into our free educational Discord server to see if everyone or anyone else was actually talking about this, and of course, they were. One member even joked that VeChain holders were faster to vote than Taylor Swift fans are grabbing concert tickets. Honestly, it kind of fits, right? Governance votes usually struggle to get attention, so seeing a frenzy like this is kind of refreshing for VeChain. Meanwhile, of course, something else was happening in VeChain land, right? That might also have slid under the radar with all of the Hayabusa hype. Crypto.com teamed up with VeChain's foundation to offer custody services for VET and VTHO. Basically, they're now providing a way for institutions, as let's think big companies or high net worth investors, to securely store and manage VET with all the proper regulatory bells and whistles. Now, why does that matter? Well, basically, it's because if you're a serious business or a hedge fund, you need your crypto in a setup that is super secure, insecure, or is insured, I should say, and of course rather compliant. And now VeChain's got all of those boxes ticked. Sunny Lu, VeChain's CEO, said this partnership is a huge step forward in mainstream adoption. That got me thinking perhaps they lined up these upgrades and partnerships together on purpose, right? One hand, you kind of revamping the blockchain's guts and, to be more decentralized and economically sound. And on the other hand, they're making it easier for big players to jump on in without custody headaches. It's kind of like setting up the stage for a kind of rollout of the red carpet all at the same time. All right, now before we all start daydreaming of Lambos or making retirement plans off of our VET, I should need to say something rather important here. Now, this one might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video today is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Phew. We had to get that out of the way now, right? So let's go ahead and talk about what everyone else is kind of thinking price-wise, right? Because, come on, as much as we love decentralization and deflationary tokenomics, a lot of us are also wondering when Moon or when Lambo. So here's the reality, right? On the day of this huge news, VET's price did not exactly do a victory lap, right? It was actually down about a little bit, right? Around 2%. Points or so, slightly red on the 24-hour charts. Not the kind of fireworks that maybe you might have expected from such a huge milestone. I actually kind of opened up the Kraken Pro app on my phone again. That's the exchange that I like to use. The affiliate link is in the description if you need a solid exchange. And of course, you want to support the channel here, right? And I was actually expecting, to maybe see a kind of fat green candle, but no, right? The market sometimes has a funny way of just yawning even at the craziest news. Then I saw a post from an analyst basically saying that if the altcoin market as a whole starts rallying, then VET would get dragged up with it and finally show some upside. In other words, VeChain might be like at least that kind of talented kid on the beach, just waiting for the team, the altcoin market, to actually start winning so that it can shine too. It sounds plausible, right? And some technical traders are even pointing out to a big line in the sand, right? The 200-day exponential moving average, around 2.5 cents for VET. That's apparently the next big hurdle. Now, VET can climb above that. Some predictions point to targets between 3 cents and 7 cents in the short term. I know that's a huge range, but it's basically kind of giving people a lot of things to look at for the potential upside if momentum really does kick on in. Now, that could be a 20% move to kind of break the trend. And maybe that, who knows, maybe a 3x if, we hit that high end of the range someday. So this is a kind of, I guess, Kardashian-sized but, right? Take all of these predictions with a grain of salt, right? Maybe a bucket of salt, in fact, right? Crypto is wild and nothing is ever guaranteed. Just because VeChain is doing, things right now doesn't mean that the price will instantly moon in the future. Now, I remember times when a project would announce a game-changing partnership or upgrade and the price would just dump the very next day. So we have to stay level-headed here. Now, personally, I'm cautiously optimistic, right? I'm definitely not selling my VET. I like what I'm seeing, on the kind of fundamental side, but I'm also not betting my rent money on it either, right? Hitting, I don't know, $1 anytime soon, specifically overnight. Patience is going to be key. So is managing the expectations. Now, what is fascinating to me is how this whole entire thing kind of felt like a journey, how it started with me kind of half asleep seeing a random notification. The next thing I know, I'm reading up on consensus mechanisms at 2 a.m. and reminiscing about VeChain's early days, and anyone else kind of remember when VeChain was mostly talked about for tracking luxury goods and authenticating wine, right? It has come a rather long way since then. And this 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗍 upgrade, funny name I know and all that, might actually be one of the most significant chapters in VeChain's history. It's the community saying yes, let's evolve, and the team actually delivering the means to actually do it. Now, the big takeaway here is that VeChain is doubling down on aligning incentives with active participation. No more free fee-for just for holding VET. Right? Now you earn because you actually contribute. It's like the network is telling its users, if you want rewards, you've got to come, you've got to secure the network and help it grow. As someone who's been in crypto for a while, that approach gets me genuinely excited. It means the chain could get more secure, the tokenomics could get tighter, and the people who truly believe in the project are the ones who are going to benefit. So, will VeChain finally shake off its reputation as that supply chain token that time forgot? There's no guarantee, but I see some positive signs: an engaged community, a clear roadmap, tangible tech improvements, and even some validation from big industry players like Crypto.com jumping on board. That's a cocktail of factors that could set the stage for a renaissance. Not saying that it's definitely gonna 10x or anything crazy like that, but it's positioned better now than it was a year ago. There's no doubt about that. Now, for me personally, I'm feeling re-energized about VET after all of this. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on all of the testnet launch in September and the mainnet upgrades at the end of the year. And you can bet that I'm going to be chatting about every twist and turn with the community in our Discord server. So if you hold VET, or even you've been thinking about buying any or into crypto just a little bit, it might be worth watching VeChain in the coming months. Sometimes the projects that lay low for a while actually end up making the loudest moves when the times come. And hey, if nothing else, it's just plain fun to kind of watch a plan come together. VeChain's team gave these upgrades some wild kind of code names: Galactica, Stargate, 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗍. Someone over there is definitely a sci-fi fan, and I kind of love it, right? They're basically watching a sci-fi plot unfold, in blockchain form. Now, with each phase bringing its own drama and intrigue, right? And this latest episode did not disappoint. So thanks for hanging out with me. Hit that subscribe button and join me in the next video.